Why experts doubt themselves while amateurs think they're geniuses. Alright, let's talk about something that affects all of us, whether we realize it or not, the strange phenomenon where experts, people who've spent years mastering their craft, often doubt themselves, while amateurs, with only a surface-level understanding, exude confidence and sometimes think they've figured it all out. It's almost paradoxical, right? But this isn't just a quirk of human behavior, it's a profound insight into how we experience knowledge, self-awareness, and the limits of our understanding. Does this sound familiar? You've probably seen it in your own life. Maybe you've been in a conversation where someone who knows very little about a topic speaks with absolute certainty, while someone with a much deeper understanding hesitates, doubts, or even contradicts themselves. It's like the more you know, the more you realize how much you don't know. But why does this happen? Why do people who know less often seem more sure of themselves? And why do experts, who have accumulated so much knowledge and experience, often find themselves questioning their own abilities? This isn't just about personality traits or confidence levels, it's about how we process information, how we build our understanding of the world, and how self-awareness can both empower and undermine us. Let's start by exploring a concept you might have heard of: the Dunning-Kruger effect. This cognitive bias explains why people with low ability at a task often overestimate their skill. It's not because they're arrogant or intentionally misleading themselves, it's because they lack the self-awareness to recognize their own limitations. In other words, they don't know enough to realize how much they don't know. That's a mind-bender, right? But it makes sense when you think about it. If you're just starting out in a field, you only see the surface. Things seem simpler than they are because you haven't yet encountered the complexities, the nuances, the layers beneath the surface. But here's a deeper question: why don't we see our own ignorance? Why do we assume that just because we know a little bit, we know enough? This isn't just a modern problem, it's something philosophers have grappled with for centuries. Socrates famously said, "I know that I know nothing." That's not false humility, it's wisdom. Because the more you learn, the more you realize how vast the universe of knowledge is and how small your own understanding really is in comparison. Now think about this for a second. What if the real mark of intelligence isn't how much you know, but how aware you are of your own ignorance? When you look at experts, whether they're scientists, artists, or thinkers, what sets them apart isn't just their knowledge, but their awareness of the gaps in that knowledge. They've spent so much time grappling with their subject that they've encountered its limits. They've seen just how complex things really are, and they understand that certainty is often an illusion.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
This brings us to a fascinating paradox. Knowledge doesn't always breed confidence, sometimes it breeds doubt. Because as you dive deeper into any subject, you start to see how interconnected everything is. You realize that no single fact stands alone, and that the more you understand about one thing, the more questions arise about everything else. It's like pulling on a thread and watching the entire sweater unravel. The more you pull, the more you see how everything is connected and how much more there is to learn. But let's flip this around for a moment. If experts often doubt themselves, why do amateurs feel so confident? This is where things get really interesting. When you're new to something, you haven't yet encountered the full complexity of the field. You're still in that honeymoon phase where everything seems straightforward. You think you've got it all figured out because you haven't yet hit the hard questions, the ones that stump even the experts. So, here's a question for you to ponder: is confidence without knowledge dangerous? Think about the implications. When someone overestimates their abilities, they make decisions or offer opinions with absolute certainty, even though they're missing key information. In some cases, this can lead to disaster. Imagine a novice giving medical advice, or someone with a shallow understanding of economics making sweeping policy recommendations. Without the depth of knowledge to understand the consequences, their confidence can be misleading not just for themselves, but for everyone who listens to them. And yet, there's a flip side to this. Confidence can also be powerful. It can push people to take risks, to try new things, to innovate. Sometimes, it's the amateurs, those who don't yet know the rules, who break new ground because they're not weighed down by doubt. So, there's a balance here. Confidence can be both a strength and a weakness, depending on how it's applied. But the key is awareness, understanding when your confidence is based on real knowledge and when it's a product of ignorance. This brings us to a deeper reflection. How do we cultivate the right kind of confidence? The kind that's grounded in knowledge, but not undermined by self-doubt. The answer lies in humility. But true confidence doesn't come from pretending to know everything. It comes from being comfortable with what you don't know, while still trusting in your ability to learn and grow. It's about embracing uncertainty, rather than being paralyzed by it. And this is where experts tend to shine, even if they don't always appear confident. They've learned to live with doubt, to navigate complexity, to ask the hard questions without expecting easy answers. They know that mastery isn't about having all the answers, it's about constantly seeking them. The wisdom of uncertainty, why embracing the unknown, is the key to true knowledge. Now that we've talked about why experts often doubt themselves and amateurs can be overconfident, let's take this conversation a step deeper. What if doubt, uncertainty, and even ignorance aren't things to fear, but rather things to embrace? What if the real key to knowledge isn't knowing more, but becoming comfortable with how much you don't know? This might seem counterintuitive, especially in a world where certainty is prized. We're taught from a young age that knowledge is power, and that the more we know, the more control we have over our lives, our careers, and our futures. But here's the philosophical twist. What if the pursuit of certainty is actually holding us back? What if true wisdom lies in the acceptance of uncertainty, in understanding that no matter how much we learn, there will always be more questions than answers? Let's break this down. When you first learn something new, it feels like you're gaining control. You're putting the pieces of the puzzle together. But as your understanding deepens, so too does your awareness of the gaps in your knowledge. Instead of the puzzle becoming clearer, it becomes more complex. You start to see that each piece connects to countless others, and that some of those pieces are missing entirely. This is where many people get uncomfortable. Uncertainty feels like a threat to the ego, like an admission of weakness. But in reality, it's an invitation to grow. Think about it. If you always had all the answers, what would push you to keep learning? What would drive you to explore new ideas, challenge your assumptions, or expand your understanding of the world? It's not knowing that fuels curiosity. It's the gaps in our knowledge that inspire us to dig deeper, to ask better questions, to seek out new experiences. This idea isn't new. In fact, some of the greatest minds in history have celebrated uncertainty as a hallmark of wisdom. Take the ancient philosopher Socrates. He famously claimed that his wisdom came from knowing that he knew nothing. This wasn't false modesty, it was a profound insight into the nature of knowledge itself. Socrates understood that the more you learn, the more you realize how much there is that you don't know. And instead of seeing this as a limitation, he saw it as a strength. By acknowledging his ignorance, he opened himself up to continuous learning and growth. But let's pause for a moment and ask a deeper question. Why are we so afraid of uncertainty? Why do we crave certainty, even when it's an illusion? part of the answer lies in how our brains are wired. As humans, we're pattern-seeking creatures. We want to make sense of the world around us, to find order in chaos, to feel like we understand what's happening. Certainty gives us a sense of security. It tells us that our beliefs are correct, that we're on the right path, uncertainty, on the other hand, feels like chaos. It forces us to confront the possibility that we might be wrong, that the world isn't as predictable as we thought, and that we're not as in control as we'd like to be. But here's the irony: the more we chase certainty, the more rigid and closed-minded we become. When we're convinced that we already have the answers, we stop questioning, stop learning, stop growing. We become trapped in our own beliefs, unwilling to consider alternative perspectives or explore new ideas, and in doing so, we limit our potential for true understanding. This brings us to a profound realization: embracing uncertainty doesn't weaken us, it strengthens us. It opens us up to new possibilities, to deeper insights, to a more nuanced understanding of the world. When we accept that we don't have all the answers, we become more adaptable, more curious, and more willing to engage with the complexities of life. We stop seeing knowledge as a fixed destination and start seeing it as an ongoing journey, a process of continual exploration and discovery. But let's not romanticize uncertainty either. Living with doubt isn't always easy. It requires humility, patience, and a willingness to sit with discomfort. It means letting go of the need to be right all the time and embracing the fact that we're all works in progress. But the rewards are worth it. When you stop clinging to certainty, you free yourself from the limitations of your own ego. You become open to learning from others, from new experiences, and from the world around you. So, here's a question for you: what if the most important thing you can learn is how to live with uncertainty? What if the true measure of intelligence isn't how much you know, but how comfortable you are with not knowing? This is the wisdom that experts often develop over time. They understand that doubt isn't a weakness, it's a sign of intellectual maturity. It's a recognition that the world is far more complex and interconnected than we can ever fully grasp. As we wrap up this part of the conversation, think about this: what would happen if we all embraced uncertainty a little more? How would that change the way we approach problems, the way we interact with others, the way we live our lives? Instead of seeing uncertainty as something to be feared, we could start to see it as a source of possibility, a doorway to deeper understanding. From doubt to mastery, how experts use uncertainty to keep evolving. So, we've explored how embracing uncertainty can lead to deeper wisdom. But now let's take it a step further. How do experts, people who've spent years and even decades mastering their craft, use doubt not as a roadblock, but as a tool for growth? How do they transform uncertainty from something paralyzing into something that propels them forward? Here's where things get really interesting. Experts, contrary to popular belief, don't reach the top of their field by having all the answers. They get there by constantly asking better questions. They don't see knowledge as a static collection of facts, but as a dynamic, ever-shifting landscape. And what allows them to keep evolving, even after they've reached a high level of mastery, is their ability to stay open to the unknown, to remain humble in the face of what they don't know. This is a mindset that amateurs often lack. Amateurs tend to think that once they've learned the basics, they've got it all figured out. They overestimate their abilities because they haven't yet encountered the full complexity that lies beneath the surface. But experts who've explored those depths understand that each answer leads to new questions. Each discovery opens up new mysteries, and this is where doubt becomes a powerful tool. Think about it. How can you grow if you're convinced you've already arrived? Growth, at its core, is fueled by curiosity, by the desire to keep learning, Keep challenging yourself. Keep pushing the boundaries of what you know. That's why experts embrace doubt. It keeps them sharp. It forces them to stay humble and to acknowledge that they're never done learning. In fact, the more they learn, the more they realize how much more there is to explore. And here's a crucial point: doubt leads to innovation. When you're not satisfied with the status quo, when you're willing to question even the most established ideas, that's when breakthroughs happen. This is why the best scientists, the best artists, and the best thinkers are often the ones who challenge conventional wisdom. They're the ones who ask, what if we're wrong, or what if there's a better way to do this? And because they're not afraid to question what's already known, they're able to push the boundaries of their field and discover new possibilities. But let's pause for a moment and ask a deeper question: why is it so hard for most of us to embrace doubt in this way? Why do we cling to certainty even when it limits our growth? Part of the answer lies in fear of failure, fear of looking foolish, fear of losing control. But here's the wisdom that experts have learned: failure is a part of the process. In fact, it's essential. You can't innovate, you can't evolve, and you can't master anything without failing along the way. Experts understand that doubt doesn't undermine their expertise, it strengthens it. Because every time they confront a question they can't immediately answer, every time they challenge their own assumptions, they get closer to the truth. They refine their understanding. They get better, not by being certain, but by being open. Here's one last thought to consider: what if doubt isn't something to overcome, but something to cultivate? What if the real secret to mastery is learning to live in that space of uncertainty, to embrace the questions rather than cling to the answers? This is how experts keep evolving. They don't settle for what they know, they keep pushing into the unknown, where real growth happens. The balance of confidence and humility, how to know when you're ready and when you're still learning, as we've explored. Doubt is a powerful tool for growth, especially for experts who understand that true mastery requires an ongoing openness to learning. But at the same time, there's another essential element we need to discuss: confidence. How do we balance the humility that comes from recognizing our ignorance with the confidence we need to take action, make decisions, and move forward? This balance between confidence and humility is one of the most challenging aspects of personal and professional growth. Too much confidence, and you risk falling into the trap we mentioned earlier, the Dunning-Kruger effect, where you overestimate your abilities and make poor choices because you don't see the gaps in your knowledge. But too much humility, and you can become paralyzed by doubt, constantly second-guessing yourself, afraid to take the next step because you're not ready. So, how do we navigate this? Let's start with confidence. Confidence isn't about knowing everything, it's about trusting yourself enough to take action, even when you don't have all the answers. It's about having the courage to step into uncertainty, to make decisions, and to keep moving forward, knowing that you will learn and adapt along the way. Confidence, in its healthiest form, isn't blind arrogance. It's a deep trust in your ability to learn, to grow, and to find your way, even when things are unclear. But here's where humility comes in. True confidence is rooted in humility. It's the recognition that, while you may not know everything, you know enough to take the next step, and that you're willing to adjust course as you learn more. Humility keeps you grounded. It reminds you that you're still learning, that you don't have all the answers, and that you need to remain open to new ideas, feedback, and experiences. This is the balance that experts have mastered: the ability to act with confidence while maintaining the humility to keep learning. They don't let their doubt paralyze them, but they also don't let their confidence blind them to their own limitations. They operate in a space where they trust themselves enough to take risks, but they're also willing to admit when they're wrong or when they need help. So, how do you know when you're ready to take action and when you still need to keep learning? Here's a practical way to approach it. Ask yourself what you know, but also ask yourself what you don't know. If you've done the work, if you've put in the time and effort to build a solid foundation, then trust yourself to move forward. But at the same time, stay aware of the gaps in your knowledge. Be willing to course correct as you go. Be confident in your ability to figure things out, but humble enough to keep questioning, keep learning, and keep growing. Now, let's ask a deeper question. How do you cultivate both confidence and humility in your life? The key is to embrace both doubt and action. Don't wait until you have all the answers to take the next step. That day will never come. Instead, take the step and trust that you will learn what you need to as you go. At the same time, don't stop asking questions. Don't stop seeking out new perspectives, new challenges, new opportunities to grow. In the end, this balance between confidence and humility is what leads to true mastery, not just in a specific field, but in life itself. It's about recognizing that you'll never have all the answers, and that's okay. What matters is that you keep moving forward, keep learning, and keep evolving with the courage to act and the wisdom to keep questioning. And here's the final thought I'll leave you with. What if the real measure of success isn't how much you know, but how well you navigate the space between knowing and not knowing? This is the path of growth, the space where confidence and humility meet, where doubt and action coexist, and where true wisdom is found. Thank you for watching, and I hope this has given you some deep insights into why experts doubt themselves while amateurs think they're geniuses, and how we can all learn to embrace the balance between confidence and humility in our own lives.